Good night to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is a Week in Review with your host, David K. Welch, myself. Tonight is an interesting program, all right? So for all of you that are tuning in right now on TikTok, as well as on Facebook, YouTube, whichever platform you're listening to right now, we are streaming live on every single platform. I want you all to know, share this live broadcast as much as possible, because tonight, Trinidad and Tobago on Weekend Review, starting at 8:30 p.m., is none other than the former Commissioner of Police to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Gary Griffith. He'll be joining us live, and mainly to talk about an article that was posted, or a news headline that was posted by the Newsday, which suggests that the Minister of Homeland Security, Minister Roger Alexander, is seeking any type of support necessary to fight against crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, interestingly enough, the government has noted assiduously or boldly that it's no longer a fight against crime, but a fight against war. It's a war on crime in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's an interesting statement, because it's noteworthy to know that during the state of emergency, the crime rate in Trinidad and Tobago has dropped significantly, but the government is still looking at this as a war on crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. Not only that, but also remember, Trinidad and Tobago is still in a state of emergency. We are still declared in a state of emergency, and the state of emergency is against, or it's supposed to help the TTPS crack down on persons that want to eliminate members of the government, eliminate members of the state. So that is very interesting also. And to talk about that a little bit more, will be the man that almost every single criminal entity in Trinidad and Tobago feared, the former Commissioner of Police in his respective role, well, his respective rights, the former former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. So he'll be joining us in just a short bit tonight, Trinidad and Tobago. But tonight, as I said, many of you probably want to know what Weekend Review is, or this familiar face back on your TV screen, back on your social media screen. And I want to thank everyone for joining, all right? Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining. If you're having any issues on the live broadcast, because I already see the stream giving a little bit of problems, don't worry. The live is recorded, so it will be posted on YouTube right after this as well, so you could go back and review it and enjoy it. Also, I want you to know that we do have a phone line, all right, that you will be able to call in and give your comments. You'll be able to ask questions, have any concerns brought up. Let me look at addressing the live real quick. Let me see what I could do for you. Let me stop this one. And I think that should fix some of the issues with the live that we're facing, right? It should, because I was streaming on real platforms. So for those of you across here on TikTok, because we're live on TikTok as well, let me show the TikTok audience. The TikTok audience is right here. I'll show the background of the studio. Good night to everyone on TikTok. Thank you for everyone that is joining on TikTok. If you want to be part of the live broadcast and you want to see some of the clips that we're about to show, the best platform to go on is either YouTube at David K. Welch or on Facebook at David K. Welch as well, all right? But let me tell you what Weekend Review is. I don't think that there are enough persons on social media and on television coming to tell you everything that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, because right now you have a bunch of persons that just come in to tell you that Kamala ain't doing this, the UNC ain't doing that, and tell you a set of lies. I want to remind the people of Trinidad and Tobago of one thing. This government has been in charge for no more than 4 months. No more than 4 months, Trinidad and Tobago. But apparently there are those on social media, such as the People's National Movement and those in the opposition camp, that come in to spread a bunch of false narrative and misinformation, not only on crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago, but on every single thing that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is doing. They asked for a 100-day manifesto, and the gracious political leader of the United National Congress and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago gave us a 100-day manifesto, and she gave us what they would have done in 100 days on a podium. And still, the government, the opposition, of this republic have the gall to question what we do and question what the government is doing. I want the opposition, Penelope Beckles, to know that there's a reason why you are now the opposition. There's a reason why the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago no longer wants to hear from the PNM. And there's a reason why they didn't even want to put you, Penelope Beckles, as the makeshift prime minister, and they placed Stuart Young. You forget that happened. The same man that's still in your whole inner circle, that's supposedly in your caucus, is the same man that they wanted to replace the former Prime Minister, Keith Rowley, with Stuart Richard Young. He's the same one that wanted to walk away with over $78,000 per month in pension, a Prime Minister pension for sitting there for what, 1 day? We stopped that. When you ask Trinidad and Tobago, what have the government done so far or thus far since we've gained office in April? We've done a lot. We've retracted a lot. There's a lot of persons, the 1% friends and families that were benefiting under the PNM regime that is no longer benefiting today. So when Penelope Beckles talking and Penelope Beckles bumping her gum outside of Parliament and talking about the protests when the India Prime Minister was here, they running this stooge of an event in Port of Spain on Aripita Avenue in Tunapuna, talking about Independence Parade. There's a lot that going on right now. Let me remind you, because that's what I come online to do now. I come online to remind. And I want to remind you that there's this very same PNM that now in opposition that cancelled independence not once but twice. So they had a reasonable explanation to cancel Independence Parade. But apparently, the government does not. A state of emergency does not declare or does not warrant any type of cancellation. Apparently. And when you ask why the state of emergency, we told you why the state of emergency. The government said why the state of emergency, and we said that the state of emergency is simply because there are major threats against officials, government officials, and citizens here in Trinidad and Tobago. But that doesn't warrant the PNM to say, okay, it's a justifiable reason. When they call the state of emergency, they get to do whatever they want to do with it. They get to trample upon the rights of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But apparently, the government calling a state of emergency for a justifiable reason is not justifiable enough for Penelope Beckles. And then there's a lot that they're still talking about. They're talking about CPEP, they're talking about this, they're talking about that, they're talking gangs, they're talking all kind of things, as though they didn't just demit office. I tell you, this country in a mess in Trinidad and Tobago. This country in a mess. And the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, now led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar, is dealing with several issues in Trinidad and Tobago, especially that of CPEP. You can't tell me that as soon as we come into office, we see blatant corruption right there. They come, staff members come, look, boom, corruption. And we were supposed to leave it. We're supposed to continue renting from Faris Al-Rawi and all the buildings that they have, spending millions of dollars behind what? Behind what? But I want to get to Penelope Beckles because, in fact, you know what? Before I get to Penelope Beckles, look at this Trinidad and Tobago. I want to know, what page is this? Debunking UNC lies with facts. Imagine that's a Facebook page. And all the Facebook page seeks to do, Trinidad and Tobago, is spread a bunch of misinformation and racism. That's it. They talk about the prayers that happened yesterday for independence. Oh, UNC didn't show up. or this, on this particular page, Trinidad and Tobago, if you were to scroll down, you will see the racist remarks put out by the same Afro-Trinidadians that want to talk. The same Afro-Trinidadians are talking about race in Trinidad and Tobago, and Kamla Persad-Bissessar and UNC cancel independence to have their own Indian prayer. That's what this page posted. Some bogus page talking about debunking UNC lies with facts. But all the page seek to do is spread PNM propaganda and PNM misinformation. And all that they seek to do on this page is promote Penelope Beckles. I don't know what penny she have. But they want to promote Penelope Beckles and promote only PNM propaganda. That is all this is, portraying the red, white, and black on the page as though they actually support red, white, and black. I think they would support if the entire flag was red for the PNM and red for blood for the nation, because every time PNM in power, I want to remind you that blood shed like water. And it is noteworthy, Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, I understand we're in a state of emergency, but it's noteworthy to know that during the reign of Kamla Persad-Bissessar, for the 4 months that she has been in office, crime dropped. Crime dropped. But anyway, let me take you to Penelope Beckles, because Penelope seems to think that some of the problems that Trinidad and Tobago is going through right now is simply because of Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress. Somehow, Kamla is a main focus and is a main problem today. The country, according to them, the country is in a better place under the PNM. So when the PNM in charge, we have no crime. When the PNM in charge, schools getting built. When the PNM in charge, you getting grants. Nobody complained about grants when PNM was in power. Nobody complained about the hospital when PNM was in power. I want to remind Penelope Beckles, you stayed quiet for over 10 years. You, Penelope, you have stayed quiet sitting in the parliament, and you have said and contributed to not one thing in 10 years. So when you come out bald head or full of hair, there is nothing that you can say and do to offer the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because you are worthless. You're worthless with absolutely nothing. And you know, I used to think, Trinidad and Tobago, that Penelope Beckles offered so much more. I thought actually that if Penelope Beckles was a person put up to go against Kamla Persad-Bissessar and not Stuart Richard Young, then the PNM might have had a better chance at winning. But I have come to realize that that is not so. That is not so at all. Whether it's Penelope Beckles, whether it's Stuart Richard Young, whether it is Keith Christopher Rowley that running for elections, it would have made no difference. Kamla Persad-Bissessar would have been the Prime Minister and is the Prime Minister today, and it's simply because the people of Trinidad and Tobago is not only tired of being fooled, but tired of the BS that the PNM offers and that style of governance that they offered before. Because it's not the same governance today. Today, you have ministers that come out of their offices in Port of Spain and go into their constituency and meet with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, meet with their constituents. That's not what you had before. Diego Martin, when was the last time you saw Keith Christopher Rowley? No? The man can take flight and go wherever he wants now, can you? Penelope, let me take a listen to you.
Could you believe that? Send them home around the time when they should be buying books and uniform. All you really feel them people care for you, boy? Huh? And now you have to be begging and pleading the book grant already. There are so many constituencies where people waiting a year, 2 years. You can't get your pension. You can't get your public assistance. They have no officer. In addition to the fact, and the CPEP workers, unemployed, no job, and they go to social welfare and they're telling you, nah, not for CPEP workers, not for reforestation workers, or you can't qualify. You really feel that would have happened under the People's National Movement? Never. So I want to, as I wrap up, people, you have the opportunity to compare.
Imagine that. You have the opportunity now to compare. Compare what, Penny? Help me understand that, Penny. What do we really have to compare? I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll tell you, Penny. We have a lot to compare. Actually, I'll change my stance. We have a lot to compare. We are comparing progress versus regress. It is your PNM administration, it is your Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, the same man you're embodying right now, that went to the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and slashed the teeth out of the procurement legislation. That's what y'all did. Y'all could spend money however you want. In fact, it is proven tonight when the mayor of your own Port of Spain Corporation talking about he could spend $120,000 however he wants. But the people of Port of Spain can't get a proper Port of Spain to walk in, because as you walk in Port of Spain, it smells like shit. It smells like pee. It smells like feces. That's the capital city that you, the PNM, controlling. You, the PNM, controlling there. $120,000 Port of Spain celebration. We go come out and jump up for independence. Yes, parade like that. We go get the people a smoke screen, because that is all the PNM consistently do. We go give you a smoke screen. Come and enjoy yourself, fet and palance on the avenue. Come out in Tunapuna, watch some fireworks. After that, we in the PNM will jump in our Prado. We go jump in our SUVs and we will leave, while you, the people who support the PNM, come out in your red and support the PNM, going on the PTSC bus route to find a maxi to go home. And had to ask, Miss Penny, let me get a little 200 now, because that's all we like to do. We like no progression, you know. She talking about compare. What we comparing? What did it have to compare? If we compare, let's go back to 2010 to 2015, because it is it's the same political leader and prime minister today that gave baby grants, book grants, laptops for all. While when your PNM came into power, 2015 to 2020, upwards to 2025, that come out to say, laptops don't make sense. But then during COVID, you realize how much sense it made. So which one we really had to compare? And you know, I heard something that Kurt Megu, PRO, said about independence. And while I neither here or there with the statements, regardless of whatever Kurt Megu tried to say, history is history, right? And the history of the PNM is downhill, because I would beg to differ, well, not even beg to differ, I'll hope, if I could have rewrite history right now, Trinidad and Tobago, I would make sure that you know what, if I say that, it might hurt me in the future. But I will still say it. I would have made sure that the PNM never reigned as long as they reigned in Trinidad and Tobago. My voice would have been prominent like a Martin Luther King voice. Because the people need to know the truth about the PNM. And the truth about the PNM is that the PNM do like its own people. That's the truth. So people like Penelope could talk. But anyway, before I continue, let me make sure and say that you have a responsible government now, Trinidad and Tobago. And let me open up the phone lines. Let me get the phone. Let me open up the phone lines. So everybody that's watching right now, let me give you the number to call. The number to call tonight, because we're going to Gary Griffith real soon. The former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, will be joining us on the line. Let me give you the number to call. It is 483-3208. You could call on WhatsApp as well. You could WhatsApp call the number it's set up. Right, you could WhatsApp call the number 483-3208, and you could give your opinion tonight just before we move on to Gary Griffith, right? So you're going to set up your WhatsApp? All right, let me go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will be back with some more tonight, Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say shout out to all of the advertisers tonight, and if you do want to advertise on this show, call us, or actually send us an email, welchkdavid@gmail.com, or WhatsApp us at 483-3208. You can even call the number, right? Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to SNS Facade Group of Companies, a dynamic community-driven group serving multiple industries with excellence and integrity. At SNS Facade Supermarket, we're committed to community, providing vessel export delivery, custom food services, local delivery, wholesale solutions, fresh produce, in-house bakery, and premium meats. Discover relaxation reimagined at Sunset Beach Resort, with beachfront stays and dining that blends local flavor with ocean views, perfect for families and couples. At Cuts and Curve Fitness Center, where health meets lifestyle, with personal training, meal plans, a full gym, and on-site cafe. The SNS Facade Group of Companies, building value, trust, and community across everything we do.
If your child doesn't understand what they read, SCA becomes 10 times harder. That's why Learn Smart TT has created an online comprehension and poetry course. This is completely self-paced with all tools accessed online. It's 30 passages, 30 poems. They can be downloaded or answered on our site. From there, students get access to answer sheets that have detailed options of how the answers could have been written. No other product on the market has this. In addition, they get access to a video tutorial with an expert teacher walking them through the passage of poems using high visuals and techniques to ensure they derive meaning. Also, we model how we derived each answer so they can do the same. If you want your child to enjoy all of these benefits and propel in comprehension, SCA, and general academic life, click the link above and register for this course and join hundreds of parents and students who are benefiting.
Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago, to Week in Review here with David K. Welch, myself. Should I stop calling myself David K. Welch? Probably. So let me get to Penelope Beckles. Actually, I think I got to Penelope Beckles already. What I want to go to is, actually I should go straight to the crime, because that is a major factor here in Trinidad and Tobago. And the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, is set to join us on the line, in just a short bit, Trinidad and Tobago, and we will be going into the issue of crime and criminality. So let me go ahead and open up the phone lines again, 483-3208. That number again, 483-3208. If you'd like to come on and see something before we move on to a different topic. So let me open the phone lines again. For all of you on TikTok, the number to call is 483-3208. I want to thank all the TikTok viewers for coming on and joining the broadcast. We had over 112 on TikTok, which is good. So the number, you could WhatsApp call the number as well, Trinidad and Tobago. That is 483-3208. Ironically, a couple of weeks ago, actually, I saw where the Patriotic Front through Makila Pandey, they had some kind of Single Fathers Association rally, because in no way that was a political gathering, because it was all men telling you why Kamala Persad-Bissessar is not good, and why they support the government, but still don't support. It was so irrelevant that I couldn't listen to the rest of it. They couldn't support something that she was doing. And I was watching the Single Fathers Association do the thing, because that's what they were, a bunch of men come together to talk about governance in Trinidad and Tobago, as though they didn't have a voice for 10 years. I don't know where Makila Pandey comes out from at times as the political leader of the Patriotic Front. I call it the political leader of the pathetic front, because that's what it is. It's a pathetic political party. I don't know what she tries to do, where her voice is at. But if Makila Pandey actually wanted to assist the government, she would have stand in support with the government during during elections, right? She had the opportunity to. I heard that she went on the campaign trail and she said, oh, she trying and Kamala not taking her calls or some nonsense like that. And I like, you know what? Makila Pandey, I don't think the country is in a state of mind to listen to anything that any third-party forces again have to say, all right? Especially the Patriotic Front. But crime is a major problem in Trinidad and Tobago right now. We are still in a state of emergency. And under this state of emergency, Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think a lot of citizens feel as though the country is in a state of emergency, though. I really don't think so. I think that people are still, you know, running like lives are normal. I mean, I still operate that way. We go to the grocery. We don't feel as though we're in a major state of emergency. And again, the state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago was simply for the threat against some government officials, you know, in this republic. And we're going to get some statements from the former Commissioner of Police, because Roger Alexander, the Minister of Homeland Security, said that they have they want to re-invite, key players who will soon return to be a part of this government's tough, technology-driven stance in the war against criminals here in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, that's an interesting statement, and I too support what he is saying, because I do think that crime is you know, war. I think it's really a war against crime. It should be a war against crime. I mean, the former Prime Minister, Christopher Rowley, stated that crime is a public health concern. And I want to know what part of that is a public health concern. But we're going to talk to the former former Commissioner of Police, my apologies, Gary Griffith. And he is on the line with me right now. Mr. Griffith, how are you?
Fine, thanks. You were right the first time. Also, former Minister of National Security.
Yes, former Minister of National Security, also Mr. Gary Griffith, on the line here with us tonight. Mr. Griffith, thank you so much again for joining. As you know, Mr. Griffith, or should I just call you Gary? Which one you prefer?
Gary is fine.
Let's go, Gary. So as you know, Gary, crime is a major concern in Trinidad and Tobago. Even when you were here as the Commissioner of Police, even former Minister of National Security as well, your whole background, your whole portfolio was to deal with crime and criminality in this republic. Today, we saw Newsday posted an article alluding to the fact that key players and a lot of persons looked at yourself as part of the government's initiative to fight crime in Trinidad and Tobago, persons that will be coming back. I want to ask you off the bat right now, Mr. Griffith, if you have plans to come back to assist the government on any crime-fighting agendas in Trinidad.
Well, unfortunately, I cannot speak on behalf of the government. That is a decision to be made by the government, and I certainly wouldn't want to make any comment that could embarrass the government or myself. So that strictly is the call of the government. What I can say is I ask the country to recall, just go back to about 2 years ago, where a certain lady called Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and myself, as political leaders, we realized that the then government was totally clueless in trying to deal with national security. They had undoubtedly, I would love to debate with anyone to confirm that Fitzgerald Hines was undoubtedly the most incompetent minister in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. So they were lost. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, the time political leader of the UNC, and myself, we were working together after local government and so forth. We realized the situation the country was in, and we decided to offer our support, our assistance and guidance to the government. And this was not because we weren't PNM. I will never be a PNM. but the fact is that we put country first. We were both patriots before politicians, and we realized that the government was clueless and people and lives were being lost. What he probably did at that time was show arrogance, show stupidity, show that politics was more important than doing what is right for the country. And he said, no, I don't care. He didn't care about trying to get the support of a prime minister when under her watch it was the highest reduction in serious crime in 31 years. Under her watch, you'd have seen things such as the 12 diamond vessels being acquired at $1.2 billion less than the 3 effective OPVs, the Rapid Response Unit, the Community Comfort Patrol, the National Security Special Operation Group, the National Alert State Policy, the National Training Academy, tripling the number of police recruits coming in. And all of that had made the country feel safer. So she offered it as a previous chair of the National Security Council. I offered as a previous security minister with measured success. He rejected it. It said a lot about him. It is now for this government to decide whether they would ever be that small-minded as how Keith Rowley was. I doubt it. Listening to the comments by the present Minister of Homeland Security, I don't think he can speak on behalf of the government, but his comment is what is required. This is not about people being PNM or UNC, ABC, XYZ. This is about good versus evil. This is about right versus wrong. And you need to, there's a line in the sand that's going to be drawn shortly, and people need to decide what side of the fence they're on. This is not about supporting the UNC. This is about supporting the state, supporting the government in the same way that Kamala was willing to help the government because they were clueless. This government certainly is not clueless. I will think that for the first 3 months, it is the first time I have ever heard a prime minister be so, let me use the word arrogant, to stand firm and said, I am not going to negotiate with criminals and give them state contracts. That is something I've been pleading for years. Remember, I fought against my own government with life sport, and she agreed with me. That is why it was shut down. And those are the type of things we need. We need to have a government that is firm, not what the last government did for 10 years. When Keith Rowley and I had our fallout, it wasn't about COVID and not arresting persons. It had to do with me telling him point blank, why it is your government is giving gang members $500,000 state contracts to build a $50,000 box train, and they're using the profits to bring in more guns, illegal drugs, and to put hits on other gang members. So this is a step in the right direction. The same way it is that with Keith Rowley, where I said, look, I am willing to give free advice. I don't need a job. I'm not looking for a job. But if it is that I can be of any help to assist the present government, I drafted that Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Homeland Security, the Ministry of Justice, and the National Operations Center, among other things. So I may have some degree of knowledge that can assist the present ministers. I already had ran my race. It is now for me to see if I can utilize any support that the government will need from me. I am a phone call away.
And I like that you mentioned that as well, because the National Command Center was definitely, I'll call it a baby of yourself, Gary Griffith, former minister and former commissioner of police also. But it's noteworthy to know, and I want to note it for the viewers watching as well, that under the Keith Rowley-led administration, crime was deemed a public health concern. And now it is deemed a war against criminal elements in society. I want to ask you, Gary, whether or not you support the terminology used right now on crime in Trinidad and Tobago, if you support the notion of calling it a war.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is what it is. We cannot trivialize the situation when we are starting to get... We're supposed to be fighting to see ourselves among the 10 richest countries in the world per capita, or the 10 safest countries in the world, or the top 10 football teams in the world. Having the record of being in the top 10 criminal-ridden countries in the world is nothing for us to boast about. And if it is that we are in the top 10, I will think that it means that there is a war that is going on. People believe that a war is just open, overt warfare. But at times there's the enemy within. Sometimes there's the enemy who will be involved in clandestine operations. And now what you're getting is that type of collateral damage where you're getting innocent citizens. This is no longer gang member versus gang member involved in some degree of criminal activity. But this involves situations now where law-abiding citizens, persons are just walking helplessly in the middle of a firefight, gang versus gang, police versus gang. And then you get any law-abiding citizens involved in things such as home invasion, human trafficking, kidnapping, and extortion. All of these things, by the way, I put an end to as Commissioner of Police. And because of the incompetence and mismanagement of Fitzgerald Hines and commissioners after me, all of the things that I put in place, from the NOC, the Operational Command Center, the Emergency Response Patrol, the Special Operation Response Team, the Gender-Based Violence Unit, the Cybercrime Unit, the Social Media Monitoring Unit, the Commissioner's Command Center, GPS tracking, body cameras, tasers, pepper spray. These people shut down and dismantled over 100 different policies that I put one after the other to make the country safer.
And it's noteworthy also to know that even trust with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is a major initiative that's happened under the command, I'll say, of yourself, Gary Griffith, as former Commissioner of Police as well. And I'd like to say that trust is almost still there, but it's not there as it was before under your leadership. I think we all could see that in Trinidad and Tobago. But let's get to some of the crime initiatives then, because while the government, have not yet listed out all of the initiatives to fight crime in Trinidad and Tobago, they did speak heavily about a technology-driven stance in the war against criminals in society. I would like to believe that goes as far as using the NOC, the National Command Center, as well as using camera footage, making it, I know it's admissible in court, but even making the court systems a little bit better. But in your regard, let me ask you, Mr. Griffith, what different, or what would you do now if ever you were to be made Commissioner of Police, or what type of advice, any type that you could give me now, that you will give to the Minister of Homeland Security and even the Minister Surge as well as National Security?
Well, I drafted the concept for the Ministry of Homeland Security and the Ministry of Defense. There's a lot that can be done and a lot that will be done. People have criticized the Minister of Homeland Security, and I think it's unfair because they're criticizing him based on the fact that he was never a very senior person in the police service. And that I think is an advantage because, let me tell you, they had some people there that were really dinosaurs. They refused to accept 21st century policing technology. So all the things that you're hearing Roger Alexander speaking about as the Minister of Homeland Security, the things you're hearing the present Commissioner of Police, who also was more so middle management, that could probably be an advantage to them because the higher up you got, it seemed that the more resistant these individuals had to want to embrace 21st century policing, intelligence-driven policing, predictive policing, that type of policing, they were reluctant for. And there's technology there. There were 12 consecutive kidnappings that took place under my watch as Commissioner, and that's why I formed that Special Operation Response Team. We were able to use technology, pinpoint the persons, kick down doors. You used to see that, you watch these TV shows, CSI, Miami, and all of that. We were doing it. There were 12 kidnappings. We kicked down the door. We rescued the victim whilst being held by the kidnappers and held the kidnappers. It started from Natalie Polnick up. After doing it 12 times, those persons realized kidnapping is nothing that we can do anymore. They tried extortion. We started putting undercover officers at those places and arresting them. They started home invasion. That's how we formed the Rapid Response Unit, the Emergency Response Patrol, GPS tracking. As soon as you jump over the wall, we can't stop you. By the time you jump back over, we'll neutralize you or hold you. And so all of these things, I think, is what I would hope that the present administration and the police hierarchy would embrace. Those are the things that were being used. Public trust and confidence in the police service went from 14% when Stephen Williams left to 59% when I left. And now it is less than 8%. And it's no fault of the police officers. It has to do with leadership and embracing the technology. So what you would have heard Roger Alexander speak about is exactly what is required. Finally, that National Operations Center, it was a gold mine. It was what played a major part towards the transformation of our law enforcement agencies. We were able to monitor their performance, make them accountable, GPS tracking on police vehicles. All of these things we were able to pinpoint. And because of that, we were able to get a faster response, and it made people feel safer. We were able to lock down criminals. The deterrent was there. That is what is required. The NOC, unfortunately, foolishly, Minister Dillon and others in the PNM decided to transfer the NOC from the Office of the Prime Minister to the SSA. The NOC was never to be a Mako installation. It has all the cameras and everything that is to assist us, not just in national security. That can also be used to stop traffic congestion, to assist us in improving carnival, major events, floods, earthquakes, anything. And that is what the NOC was for. Since the PNM took over for the 10 years, we spent tens of millions of dollars for a system that just stayed there. So it is hope, as the present Prime Minister has rightly stated, it should be used for the right reasons, and definitely I think law enforcement would benefit greatly from it.
And then a projection, because while we talking about crime, and everyone can have an input in crime, especially persons that are key players right now, as Minister Alexander alluding to as well, with key players being involved or soon returning to take part in this fight or war against crime. I think persons are more so looking for a timeline, because when the PNM left office in April of this year and UNC took up office, you know, as well as everyone else know, that part of the country voting for the United National Congress was because of crime and criminality. But I think persons came with the notion that crime was an immediate thing that could have been fixed like in maybe 3 days, because that's almost like what the country is asking for. A projection from yourself as to a real timeline with all of the measures that you're talking about now, with utilizing the NOC, utilizing every single measure possible to take crime down. That can be done over how long? What timeline?
Well, okay, I'll give you an example. In my first 120 days as a Minister of National Security, I was able to develop a national security policy framework, National Operations Center. I strengthened collaboration with Venezuela through a bilateral agreement that put an end to the La Guardia Nacional entering our waters, a bilateral agreement with Colombia, a national security management system, a national security training academy, highway patrol, rapid response unit, community comfort patrol. But those things, all of those things that I would have established in my first 120 days, you would not have seen the results until probably a few months later. But the good thing is that the country started seeing things. They started realizing, hey, new unit, new policy, new technology. We started doing a draft cabinet note for training of customer service training and protocol training for all police officers and immigration officers. That's a big thing here. Many citizens are frustrated by the arrogance and the obnoxious behavior of police officers in roadblocks and so forth. I did it as a minister, and I did it as commissioner. Understand, Mr. Man, that you are a police officer. You work for every citizen in this country. They are your boss. You can't come with, let me say, driver's permit. All of these things had a big part to play in transforming the image of the police service that moved it from 14 to 59% in public trust and confidence. So people need to start seeing things being established, but you're not going to see the transformation of the crime statistics overnight. It happened with me again as commissioner. My first year, it took me 18 months to establish over 100 policies. Crime went up, but even though crime went up, public trust and confidence went up, and then after the 18 months, you started seeing a drastic reduction in crime. So that is how it will work. So for people to believe government changes overnight, you're going to see a reduction in crime, total madness. But in fact, you actually need a reduction in crime anyway. And there is a pattern that the country has to admit. I'm not here to be political. Let's do the maths quickly. 91 to 95, crime went up every year. Guess who was in government? 95 to 2001, crime went down every year. Guess who was in government? 2001 to 2010, crime went up every year. Guess who was in government? 2010 to 2015, it went down every year. 2015 to 2025, it went up every year, except the year when I was commissioner. So you'd have seen the pattern where it is that it is because of the PNM negotiating with criminal elements, where it is that Patrick Manning's concept of to put somebody in charge of national security, all it takes is common sense and a level head. So he used a nightclub owner in Howard Chinley. He used Martin Joseph, whose 2 speeds was dead slow and stop. And then it went with undoubtedly the most incompetent minister in Fitzgerald Hines. Thankfully, we have someone who has a hands-on approach in Roger Alexander, and we have a new commissioner. And we have a chairman of a National Security Council that showed her worth. Listen, I worked with her as the chairman of the National Security Council. She's not a crime expert. She doesn't need to be. She was a prime minister. What she did was she gave me leeway. She allowed me to play T20 type national security, not St. McCree's like, Shivran Chandapol, and bat holding and then do not make runs. She allowed me to go out and say, PM, I need to get new vessels to replace the OPV. We need to get drones. We need armored vehicles. We need to do customer service training. As soon as I was throwing it at her, she was saying, go with it, Gary, go. And that is the type of leadership that we need. So she doesn't need to be a security expert, but she needs to make sure that there are people there who can just be driving things forward until she gets frustrated. That she says, oh God, you again, what? No, I need to approve this. That is what is required. Dynamic activity and just pumping policies, programs, technology, letting the public be aware you're seeing a transformation of national security. That happens, the public will start to believe in you. and then you will start seeing the results in drastic reduction in crime.
And if you could give a rating to Mr. Griffith as to the performance right now of both Minister Alexander and Minister Sturge, what type of rating would you give?
Well, Minister Alexander will be much easier. I mean, you could easily give him a B+. Remember, he's a new kid on the block, so you don't expect him to be I was going to say a Gary Griffith overnight. He has never been into the politics, and it is difficult. It really is difficult, especially with the political climate where half of the country hates you regardless of what. You could be James Bond. It doesn't matter, and that is why he is still making himself very accessible. He is talking the talk, and I think just give him some time, and I think he will do what the country needs and what the country wants. As it for Minister Sturge, he has not said much, so I do not know. It's difficult to grade him because you really don't know what he's up to because he's not saying much. He can very well be doing a lot behind the scenes. So you can't criticize someone because you're not hearing from what they're doing. I mean, it's just 4 months in office. The Ministry of Defense is a brand new ministry. One of the things I think that he needs is someone with heavy competence in understanding that ministry. I drafted that ministry for Kamala Prasad-Visesa just before the 2010 election. Unfortunately, ministers of national security, when they were appointed, didn't want to pursue this because they thought they would have probably lost half of their ministry. But it is a critical ministry because you can't, in this modern time, have a minister in charge of 20,000 law enforcement people, police, army, Coast Guard, immigration, fire, prisons, madness. The prisons alone should be a ministry by itself to transform the prison system, which is why I formed the Ministry of Justice for her. The Ministry of Defense must be for the Defense Force to deal with border protection. 95% of our illegal weapons come through the legal ports of entry. We need to form a border protection unit to work in that Ministry of Defense. That Ministry of Defense is supposed to be used to transform the Defense Force. We can't have a Defense Force just sitting back waiting for another coup where 35 years later you're waiting on another coup to take place. There's a lot that those 5,000 men and women can do without waiting for another coup. They can complement the police service. There's a lot they can do in developing young persons, taken away from a life of crime. A lot that they can do and have not been doing, not because of their fault, but because of the incompetence of the previous administration refusing to utilize them. We had COVID, and everybody in the defense force stayed in camp waiting for what? We needed the support. The police had to lock down the country throughout that year of COVID without one soldier or sailor from the defense force supporting us. That made absolutely no sense. We had a situation, I remember, where there were 35 different roadblocks with burning of tires and so forth. Defense Force never came out. So it is hoped that the Defense Force can be utilized in a much better manner. And therein lies the reason why I drafted that Ministry of Defense. If Minister Sturge gets that advice and guidance from those persons with years and decades of experience, we do have that. We have the UNC have thankfully been the main political party that have utilized military officers as ministers of national security, from Joe Theodore, John Sandy, Carl Alfonso, and Gary Griffith. In the case of the PNM, they used one. There's just been one, that was Eddie Dillon, and that didn't go too well. It was the highest crime rate in the country's history until Fitzgerald Hines came forward. So I think utilizing the expertise of people who are still around, such as Minister Brigadier Alfonso and Brigadier John Sandy, I think they can provide some degree of guidance and support to have that Ministry of Defense ensure maximum capacity to perform.
I like that you answer. I was about to ask you another question, but you already answered it. I was about to ask about the Ministry of Defense and Homeland Security and whether or not you support the split in ministries, but I did read the post that you posted about that. So that's good. That's good to know. Gary Griffith is so versed, he answering questions before it's asked.
Yeah, I have a bad habit with that.
But definitely, thank you so much for joining. There's a lot that we still need to talk about, especially when it comes to crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago, and steps to really bring down crime in Trinidad and Tobago. But I think before we let you go, we must talk about the burning topic, Venezuela, because I think people seem to think this is like the first time warships out in the Caribbean. I think it also happened under your watch as well. I could be stand to be corrected there. But do you think the people of Trinidad and Tobago have anything to fear with warships being in our waters or in the Caribbean?
Well, I think what we had to fear was what we have endured for the last few decades. I'm not here to pick sides. I would hope, and I'm listening to the Prime Minister, she's saying the right thing, and people are not listening. She's not picking sides. What we have to accept, and that's why when I was Security Minister, I got that bilateral agreement signed between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. It was the first time that Colombia signed a bilateral agreement with Trinidad and Tobago. I was able to get the Defense Minister of Colombia to come to Trinidad and Tobago to sign it, to be first to put a curb on human trafficking and illegal weapons entering. Same thing with Venezuela. For decades before I was minister, we had the problem with LaGuardia National attacking our fishermen, seizing their vessels, seizing their fish, seizing their nets, and they were in Trinidad and Tobago waters. I met with them and said, listen, this is going to stop. I have Coast Guard, I'm getting Coast Guard vessels, and there's going to be confrontation, and there's going to be bloodshed. Stop it. And they agreed. That is where, before 2013, you were hearing it on a regular basis. You didn't hear about that for several years because of that bilateral agreement. But we've had problems with Venezuela involved with LaGuardia National attacking our fishermen. We have a situation where the previous government foolishly allowed 20,000 Venezuelans to remain here without doing any vetting. So dozens of them have been gang members who have infiltrated the criminal underworld that have been instrumental in more murders taking place. So we have all of these issues taking place. And then, to top it off, now you have having the officials from Venezuela mislead the world by stating that Trinidad and Tobago is a hub for terrorist activities and a launching pad to use against Venezuela to destabilize Venezuela. Those are very serious allegations. And when a country makes allegations like that against your country, and many times it is an excuse to be used to infiltrate and target your country. So we need to look at where our bread is buttered. I spent 17 years in the military I was also a security minister, and for decades we have seen the United States involved in these things, in patrols and so forth with CARICOM. The US has something known as SOUTHCOM, Southern Command. Their job is to patrol the territorial waters of their allies to ensure, and it involves training, it involves operation, it involves logistics support. It started with, it was known as CINSEC, the Caribbean Islands Nation Security Conference. It then went to CANSEC. It is Operation Trade Winds. This has been going on for years. They have never come so far south, because the further south they go, it's going to cost them hundreds of millions more in maintenance of these vessels the more south they go. So, but we should be thankful, because on most occasions, they will usually border around Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Bahamas. So now that they are here in our territorial waters, it is important that we should embrace it, welcome it, because you are hearing Venezuela making some very serious allegations. They are throwing shots across the bow of Trinidad and Tobago. And we can't just jump up to say, oh, we intend to support the U.S. openly, and next thing the U.S. rise out of here and we are left defenseless. I listened to a junior minister. He speaks about everything other than what his ministry is, which is housing. For 4 months, he's never spoken about his ministry. He jumped up and said, don't worry, if Venezuela attacks us, the U.S. will come down and support us. The U.S. will take about a week if they are not here, before they get down here. And if that is the case, Venezuela, they have one fighter jet can do serious damage to all our military installations and cities within a few minutes. They may not even need to leave the mainland. So we need to get that type of support from our international allies, be it drones for surveillance, drone surface-to-air missile for intercept capability of missiles that can enter Trinidad and Tobago. We need naval support. We need air support. People might be saying, why? It might put persons in a panic mode, but it is better that we prepare now than we prepare later, because if we prepare later, it may not just cost us in dollars and cents, but lives that could be lost. So if it is that we can utilize the technology, the support from our international allies to support and defend Trinidad and Tobago, I welcome it.
I appreciate you, saying Minister Griffith. I'm preaching it into existence tonight. Mr. Griffith, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate you taking the call and joining me on this very first episode of Week in Review. Definitely want to speak more. There's more to talk about, but no time to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you so much. That was Mr. Griffith, Gary Griffith on your line. Some persons call him Uncle Griffith, all right, when he was Commissioner of Police to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
SNS Facade Group of Companies, a dynamic community-driven group serving multiple industries with excellence and integrity. At SNS Facade Supermarket, we're committed to community, providing vessel export delivery, custom food services, local delivery, wholesale solutions, fresh produce, in-house bakery, and premium meats. Discover relaxation reimagined at Sunset Beach Resort, with beachfront stays and dining that blends local flavor with ocean views, perfect for families and couples. At Cuts and Curve Fitness Center, where health meets lifestyle, with personal training, meal plans, a full gym, and on-site cafe. The SNS Facade Group of Companies, building value, trust, and community across everything we do.
If your child doesn't understand what they read, SCA becomes 10 times harder. That's why Learn Smart TT has created an online comprehension and poetry course. This is completely self-paced with all tools accessed online. It's 30 passages, 30 poems. They can be downloaded or answered on our site. From there, students get access to answer sheets that have detailed options of how the answers could have been written. No other product on the market has this. In addition, they get access to a video tutorial with an expert teacher walking them through the passage or poems using high visuals and techniques to ensure they derive meaning. Also, we model how we derived each answer so they can do the same. If you want your child to enjoy all of these benefits and propel in comprehension, SCA, and general academic life, click the link above and register for this course and join hundreds of parents and students who are benefiting.
All right, welcome back on the Inside Trinidad and Tobago. We are taking some calls. The phone lines are open, 483-3208. The phone line is open. You're going to see my face in this one. I'm sorry. Hi, good night. Welcome to the live. Talk to me.
Yeah, good night, sir. How are you?
I am doing well.
Nice. Just want to be brief. I just stumbled on the live. And I like what it is you're doing. You know, it was nice to hear what Mr. Griffith had to say. It's a lot of knowledge he imparted, which I do hope that other, parliamentarians such as from the UNC are listening and are taking advice. But I'd like to ask if, like how you interview Mr. Griffith, are you going to continue interviewing people from the government besides him, so we can get to bring our point across and such, I just wanted to find out that.
Absolutely. Yes, it is something that we plan to continue on the live, and I do want to thank you so much for viewing and coming on. But yes, it is something that we plan to continue doing. We will speak with several other politicians mainly from government, because all they know the opposition ain't want to come here. Penelope ain't want to come here at all. So definitely we're going to continue that. Hi, good night. You're live. Talk to me. You're live. Hey, how things?
You hear me?
I am. Go ahead.
Cool. I'm listening to you and Gary talking, and very interesting. But I believe Gary, for a man with so much experience, Mr. Griffith, he falling short, right? Because everybody have this crime thing wrong. They're doing everything wrong. And that's going to cause a lot more problems for the country. And I don't really want to put everything out there, because the Trinidad and Tobago National Democratic Front is working on a crime plan coming out very soon. I hope I get an interview by you.
Send it.
And
Send it across.
laying it out to the government and to the opposition, even taking it to the newspaper, because I didn't grow up in a bubble, and it seems like the people who in power and who want to get back in certain seats grew up in a bubble. One of the biggest issues we had with crime when I was growing up, and still have it, is consignment guns and ammunition. Consignment guns and ammunition gives any fool the easiest access to guns and bullets. The thing with consignment guns, when you take it, and it is coming from Venezuela, and you can't pay, and you realize these men ready to send hit squads in the country for you, and it is easy access for them to come across here, and somebody always willing to take the job, they will come after the law-abiding citizens. Rather, they are the bank, they're in their home, they're in their business, because them don't want to dead, they don't want the family to dead. The other thing too, you see the local seafronts, it is controlled by a minority of people. I don't want to say the race, because if I say people will get vexed. They control everything that comes in. Then it camps on the local seafront. Then it is connected between TTPS and others. We're talking about corrupted officers here, rather there is Coast Guard or other. And then it comes into the community and it moves on wherever it has to. These are the biggest issue when it comes to out of control crime, where any fool can get a gun in their hands without $1. And these are some of the things the politicians them needs to hit on. And this thing, we're talking about police and this one and that one. We need a separation of powers. We don't need more ministries like the Ministry of Defense. That needs to go. We could keep the Ministry of Homeland Security and the Ministry of National Security. We need bodies, whether it is a forestry body to deal with the rivers, swamps, forest areas and so on, or rather it is a body to deal with the seafronts, border control. Rather it is a body to deal with the corrupted officers in the police station and so on, where they could just walk in, gather the evidence, whatever, put in their molds and arrest anybody, down to politicians. And until the government, who's in power right now, ready to separate those powers from the Commissioner of Police, everybody wasting time.
Understood.
That is my take.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. All right?
All right, brother.
Yes,
Take
ma'am.
care.
Thank you so much again, Trinidad and Tobago, for joining this live broadcast tonight. I mean, there's still so much that we need to talk about. And in fact, I'll play this real quick because I want Penelope Beckles again to know. And also the former Minister of Education, Nian Gasby Dolly. All right, I want you to know that, you know, when all you're talking all your nonsense across social media and for the media and stuff like that, I mean, we working. Y'all seeing this, right? The government is working. I really don't understand what PNM does be talking about, and you know they say communities. Penelope talk about communities and this and that and the other. Penny, take a look at your own PNM area. Penny, this is a PNM area. This school's still going up. The mandate by this government, by the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, by Kamala Prasad Bissessa, is people first. This is a people-centered administration. And most importantly, a government for all. Because when Penny and them out telling you CPEP, we putting up schools for the same CPEP workers from these communities, if some were released, the same people, children getting to go here. Or I think Laventel East Mover filled with only Indians. I guess so. I guess they're only filled with Indians because it's black African children, Indian children, whoever, all. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that statement? All going home from Wilfred Espinoy. Well, Penny Beckles. All will be given an education here. All. Every single children in Trinidad and Tobago will be given an education in Trinidad and Tobago. Hi, can I talk to me real quick? Yes, sir.
So So I listened to your live for its entirety, and I really have one concern. I know in politics in Trinidad that, we have a bunch of opinions and persons who want to see what they think and what they know. And you seem to have acquired a substantial following. But I want to know, what is your qualification? What is your background in terms of speaking to these matters? Are you a political analyst? What is your history in politics?
Let me ask you a quick question, if I could, because I'd love to ask you a question in that regard before I answer. Can I?
No problem. I'm listening.
Do you vote?
I vote every single day.
Do you need qualifications to vote? Like, do you need to go? 1 second, let me ask the question. This is my show, not yours. Relax yourself. My show, not yours. Let me ask you a question. Do you need education in terms of you need to go to school and learn about how to vote, who to vote for before you vote, or when you get 18, when you turn 18, you're allowed to vote constitutionally? Which one?
It's not a matter of that, but I genuinely think...
That is one question I need to ask you first. So don't tell me it's not a matter of you,
Let me answer your question.
Go ahead.
And then respond. So my answer to you, obviously, is no. You don't.
Good. Next question. Thank you. Answer the question. My next question. Do you have social media? You have Facebook?
Of course I do.
Do you have YouTube?
Of course I
do. Do you have to pay Facebook and YouTube to do the same thing I'm doing to come on and voice your opinion, or no?
I don't.
All right. Have a great day, sir. Thank you so much. Because I don't understand. Do we need some sort of qualification to talk about issues in Trinidad and Tobago? Or is this free? The Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the very same thing the PNM say they're protecting, allows for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to voice your political views. It allows you to express yourself. It allows for freedom of movement without any type of redress. So I don't understand how they could come and tell me now that I need to have qualifications to talk politics. Because as the first time I've ever heard that statement, I never heard that before. I never heard that I needed some sort of qualifications to say, hey, I do agree with what PNM doing, or I do agree with treating people like if they are slaves. And I do agree with former Prime Minister Keith Rowley saying that the rich had to get richer. I don't agree with sending home thousands of workers from Petrotrin. I don't agree with shutting down a bunch of state assets. I don't agree with Colin Bird saying grapes is a luxurious food. I don't agree with those things. I didn't know I needed to go to school for the teacher to tell me what to agree with. In fact, the great Lord himself put us on this earth. And he didn't put us on this earth and say, just do this and do that and do the other. He put us here for free will. And this is my show, not yours. But anyway, as I was saying, you know what? I agree. I agree with him. And that is why the UNC building this building. So people like Ole could go and get a proper education. So Ole could go and learn the Constitution and read a little bit more. Trinidad and Tobago, tell Penelope Beckles that this is still going on. Look, Penny. Penny, this is still going on, Penny. This is in your area, Penny. Trinidad, when it is that they're talking, make sure that they know what they're saying. My assistant coming at me telling me another phone call coming. I don't know if to take the next phone call or not. Let me take one more, Trinidad and Tobago. One more. Hi, good night, you're live.
Pleasant evening to you, dear David. This is Mr. Tabakit. I just
wanted to touch base. Mr. Tabakit, I'm going to tell you, I have limited time. I was supposed to finish this at 9.
Well, I just wanted to touch base and to tell you congratulations. Of course, I will tune in. I will now look at the number, and I follow you on all the various social media platforms. So I will be monitoring, and I will support your program. I want to tell you, Mr. Tabakit in the house, and you're doing a wonderful job. You have a blessed night.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tabakit. Mr. Tabakit on the inside, Trinidad and Tobago. Always appreciate that voice. Always appreciate his views as well. You all know Mr. Tabakit is a long-standing one from radio, TV, and now social media. Trinidad and Tobago, it was an interesting one. It was a long one. Thank you, all of you, for everyone that joined on TikTok, joined on Facebook. As you all can see, this is a program for the people, by the people, and always taking comments, questions, concerns from the people. I have no issue debating you if you don't agree with what I'm saying, but don't come and tell me that I need education to talk politics. The time you go down that route, I don't want to hear anything that you have to say. If you want to debate me on something proper, you can call the line for what's the number again? 483, look at it, 483-3208. If you ever have anything that you want to say to the great David Welch, call the assistant. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for joining me on the Inside. It was a lovely one. We will be live again on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we are live again, and then on Saturday, we'll be live again from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., not 9:11, not 9:12, not 9:30. 9 p.m. is when I try to wrap up the program by, all right? Stay tuned for that. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much again for joining, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great day. Oh, and by the way, you will get a repeat of this program for those of you that are asking, because for those that are on TikTok right now, they're asking to watch the program in its entirety, so you all can view the program again on YouTube. It's up right after this, but I'll be posting a better quality version in just a short bit, and we'll do a simul broadcast tomorrow at 5. Thank you so much again, Trinidad and Tobago. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.